This is not nostalgia. This is a record. The air in April 1975 carried an unfamiliar stillness. Not peace, only stillness. It was the kind of stillness that does not announce itself. It does not arrive with fear. It simply settles, quietly, patiently. If you search your memory, you may find a living room suspended in that silence. A low mechanical hum filling the air. A television. A boiler. Electricity doing its quiet work. Not to comfort you, but to convince you that everything was functioning. The walls were paneled to resemble wood. Not real wood, an imitation. A surface designed to suggest permanence. The light was yellow, soft, forgiving. Not warm by nature, but warm by intention. The smell of cigarettes settled permanently into the carpet. Not drifting, not fading, it stayed. Coffee moved through the house from the kitchen. A familiar bitterness, a signal that the day was still under control. Outside, an engine idled, heavy, patient, fueled by leaded gasoline, vibrating through the glass. A reminder that motion was possible, even if you were staying still. These were not background details. They were agents, chemical, sensory, neurological. They were sedatives. You were a child then, or young enough to believe the world had rules. Clear rules. Rules that applied equally. Rules you believed would exist tomorrow. Your parents sat nearby, close enough to touch, turning the pages of a catalog, calculating monthly payments, not for luxuries, but for assurances, for objects that suggested continuity. Appliances, cars, items that promised to last longer than uncertainty. On the television, the news reported deterioration, a distant place, a country you could not locate without help, a war that sounded old, almost finished, almost irrelevant. The comfort of the room absorbed the impact. The images lost their weight. Tragedy became static, noise without consequence. Your nervous system learned something vital that night, that danger lived elsewhere, that collapse happened to other people, in other climates, in other languages. But there were signals you were not allowed to decode. A tremor in your father's hands as he folded the newspaper. Not fear, not panic, something quieter, more durable. A prescription bottle rattling softly in your mother's grip. A sound that carried no explanation, only routine. These were data points removed from your awareness, filtered, contained. You lay on the carpet, its fibers rough against your skin, staring at flickering light, watching shadows move across the ceiling, convinced this stability was permanent, that this configuration of people and objects was fixed, natural, unbreakable. This was anesthesia, not safety, preparation. The last helicopter did not end a war. It ended an assumption. On April 30th, 1975, as evacuation helicopters lifted from Saigon, something ruptured far from the battlefield. Not in Southeast Asia, but inside American living rooms. Inside bodies that had never heard gunfire. Inside minds that had been promised continuity. The belief in endless expansion collapsed, quietly, without ceremony, without permission. Your parents felt it first, not as politics, not as ideology, but as tension, a shift in weight, a subtle recalibration of posture. Their nervous systems moved into vigilance. Doors closed louder than before. Keys sounded heavier in locks. Silences began to stretch, to linger. The world outside no longer felt neutral. It had edges now, angles, unknown intentions. In 1975, inflation exceeded 9%. Unemployment climbed toward 9%. These numbers were not abstractions. They were measurements of erosion, proof that effort no longer guaranteed preservation. Wages decayed before reaching home. Value evaporated in transit. Work increased. Security did not. Money detached from certainty. Effort detached from reward. Your parents worked harder, longer hours, fewer pauses, while their bodies absorbed the difference. Cartilage deteriorated faster than assets accumulated. Sleep shortened. Patience thinned. Cities became extraction zones. Noise damaged hearing. Machinery compressed time. Exhaust filled lungs. Residue settled into clothing and skin. The countryside became memory, untouchable, unreachable, a place associated with guilt and longing. Debt ensured immobility. Installments fixed the body in place, month after month, year after year. Chemical solutions followed, quietly, clinically. Sedatives in medicine cabinets, names spoken softly. Valium, Librium. Emotions flattened for structural stability. The house remained functional, predictable, orderly, at a cost. This was not collapse. It was containment. Your parents did not break. They absorbed. They redirected fear inward, stored rage in joints and muscles, rationed hope so you would not feel it. They became biological shock absorbers, positioned between you and a system that had failed to keep its promise. This was not passive endurance. It was resistance, undocumented, unrecognized. They traded sleep. They traded health. They traded certainty. Your childhood room remained quiet because they paid the interest. You are not a coincidence. You are the evidence. The scars uncovered in this examination are not symbols of weakness. They are proof of transfer. Dignity moved forward, through damage, through silence. Do not pity them. Pity misunderstands scale. Instead, recognize the function they performed. They stood so you could stand later. The audit is closed. You remain. The record remains.